Hi, I'm Marianne Williamson, and I'm running for Congress. I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives, California District 33. Sometimes people ask me, well, why are you doing this? And I think that I'm doing it for the same reason that so many millions of people around this country are expressing their frustration with the way things are. I feel like a government of the people, by the people, and for the people has become a government of a few of the people and by a few of the people and for a few of the people. And I think that if we are going to change the basic social contract between the American people and our government, that which was stated by Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg Address, if we're going to change that contract, we need to have a very passionate conversation about it. You don't just mock the Gettysburg Address and not discuss it. We now have a situation which is very much a legalized system of corruption, a legalized system of bribery, and I think we need to face that fact. Moneyed interests wield an influence over the functioning of our government that is so disproportionate to that which is wielded by the average citizen, as to represent a kind of aristocratic system. You can call it a corporatocracy or plutocracy or an oligarchy. I don't think it matters what you call it, but it is a system in which major resources of our country have been siphoned off through banking policies, through trade policies, through tax policies, decade after decade after decade, until these major material and immaterial resources are held basically in the hands of a very few. We don't do that in America. No. We repudiated an aristocracy 200 years ago, and I have the sense that we need to repudiate it again. Well, we're used to thinking that the political status quo can be looked to face these challenges, to fix these problems for us. But we're living at a time where looking to the political status quo to fix these problems seems increasingly ridiculous because they created these problems. And that's why I'm running as an independent. Where the parties are so different these days, that's true that they're different, but underneath all that, there's some ways in which they are way too similar. And that is that both of them are beholden to these same moneyed interests. You know, as long as this is the case, we will never be able to deal adequately with global climate change because fossil fuel companies will continue to dominate the system. We will never be able to deal adequately with GMOs, herbicides, pesticides, and other ways that our food supply is being corrupted because chemical companies and big agricultural companies dominate the system. And we will never have universal health care as long as health insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies dominate the system. So we have a very, very serious problem on our hands now. We have shrinking civil liberties, we have expanding corporate influence, and we have domestic surveillance. This is a very toxic brew. This can put American democracy into a death spiral. We need a serious pattern interruption. It is not enough to just tweak it here and tweak it there. We're past that. We can't any longer just deal with the effects without dealing with the cause of all this. We can't any longer just deal with the symptoms without calling the disease what it is. There is a cancer that is eating our democracy. There's an issue that's underlying all these other issues, and that is the issue of money in politics. That's why getting the money out of politics is the greatest moral challenge of our generation. You know, it's not like we've never had serious problems in this country before. Remember, this country was founded by people who, on one hand, encoded into our founding documents some of the most extraordinarily enlightened principles of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, equality of rights, equality of opportunity. These principles are amazing. But let's not forget that many of the men who encoded these principles into those documents were themselves slave owners. So we've always had this dichotomy, always. But the narrative of American history has been that generation after generation, there have been forces, there have been people who have wanted to further embody and seriously manifest the democratic principles on which we stand, and there have been forces that would resist that. This is the point, though. We have always tended to self-correct. Yes, we did have slavery, but a generation arose. And with the abolitionist movement, and then of course the Civil War, we abolished slavery. Women didn't even have the right to vote. But a generation arose, and with the suffragette movement, we passed the 19th Amendment, and women got the right to vote. There was segregation, legalized segregation in the American South, Jim Crow laws, but a generation arose, and with the civil rights movement, paved the way for civil rights legislation. So those of us who are today taking a stand in whatever way we can, both within the electoral system and outside the electoral system, and saying we must do as other generations have done. You know, we were told by our founders that we must be vigilant. And every generation is a steward of democracy. It is ours to recognize, where are we doing well as a nation? Let's build on that. And where are we not doing well? Where do we need to course correct so that we can bequeath to our children a system at least as good as what we found, and hopefully better? So I believe that this is a very critical moment in American history. It's time for a generation to rise up, as others have done before us, and do what it takes to protect and foster our democracy. We're not doing that. We can't claim the solution until we truly name the problem. And the problem is something very nefarious going on here, the way money is speaking louder than the American people. But the great social justice movements of the United States arise from the people themselves. And that's what this new pro-democracy movement is. It is arising from the people themselves. That's a real American spring right there. And I see my candidacy and my campaign as part of this. It's in the zeitgeist. It's the times in which we live. And this is not time for us to fall into the same old, just towing the line, this kind of Stepford citizenship that we've fallen into, with politics becoming a spectator sport and we're just watching the horse race. That's got to stop. We don't have time. We must awaken. When the American people do wake up, we slam it like nobody's business. That's why when Pearl Harbor was attacked, a Japanese admiral famously said he feared that they had awakened a sleeping giant. And I think a giant that has been asleep for too long is beginning to awaken. I feel it. Many people feel it. But it's not enough to just deal with this from the outside. It's not enough to just deal with this from online petitions. There's a limit to what we can do from the sidelines. No, on this one, we need to get in there. And that's why I am running for Congress, and I hope that you will support me in any way you can. If you live in District 33 of California, I hope that you will vote for me. If you do not, I hope that you too will support my candidacy in any way possible. And if I have the privilege of becoming your congressperson, this is what I will do. I will go to Washington, and I will do everything in my power to magnify the voice now in Congress as well as that outside Congress. The voice, the movement that has to do with preparing a constitutional amendment that would be sent to the states for ratification, outlawing the undue influence of money on our politics, establishing that corporations do not have the rights of personhood. Until then, very, very serious, unnecessary human suffering will lie behind the statistics that we all know too well. If you feel, as I feel, something is off, democracy has sort of gone off the rails, and that it is up to the people of the United States to interrupt that pattern, to speak our word, to take our stand, to run candidacies, to run winning campaigns, to win seats in Congress, to win elections that actually create political heft around this new pro-democracy sentiment in the United States. And if you agree, as I do, that it is time for this, now, in this moment, I hope that you will do all that you can to support my campaign. And if you do, and with your help, I promise you, I will slam it. I will. And I thank you for your support.